Amen. That was beautiful. Wow. Thank you. So, good morning. My name is Traci Huges. I happen to serve as the executive director at All Souls Church right down the road in Washington, D.C. And I also serve double duty there as a seminarian, hence my invitation to hang out with all of you this morning. So first I want to say thank you, Reverend John, for the invitation to preach today. When I spoke with Reverend John a few weeks ago about what the theme should be and what the tone should be, he said to me something like, well, just keep it cool, keep it light. You know, it's the end of summer, we want to keep things easy, don't overthink it. And I hung up the phone and I thought, oh, that's kind of easier said than done these days because our times are feeling pretty heavy, right? And I, like all of you, I'm sure, have been challenged lately to find some spark of joy and just hope to cling to. So, dear ones, I'm going to confess to you that this sermon, I will be preaching just as much to myself as I am to all of you. So I pride myself on being a very practical person. And as I consider all of the injustices that are happening to us, near us, and around the world, I question, what do I do? What do we do as a people of faith when we're mourning the loss of life, the loss of our freedoms, the loss of respect for the dignity of our collective humanness? So sometimes I've got to remind myself that, particularly after watching too much cable news and just kind of death scrolling through all the alerts on my phone, that there is indeed so much beauty and kindness in the world still. And that deserves to be celebrated. So in my quest for joy and in anticipation of hanging out with all of you today, I thought of the last time that I felt pure and utter delight in the middle of all of the chaos that is swirling around us. I thought about the last time I felt that kind of joy, that kind of feel like you can fly, smiling ear to ear, dizzy with delight, you're spinning around with your hands and your arms wide open. That kind of joy. That was the last time I danced. And I'll share more about that later. But since that was the memory that I immediately recalled when I got the assignment to keep it light and keep it cool, it was a bit of an aha moment for me. Because that meant surely I and we can remember what hope feels like when our bodies and our spirits are naturally compelled to move to the rhythm of music. There is something primal about dance. When we allow ourselves to move and experience pure joy, when we are dancing, we kind of like do the two-step, or we do the shuffle, or we do that default dance that we all do. You all know it. We don't know what else to do, but that's okay. That's okay. So if you think about it, it's really simple. Every ancient religion, Buddhism, Hinduism, Judaism, indigenous religions from around the world, and Christianity, each regard dance as a spiritual and communal act. Dancing is ritualistic. It's an act that is central to the worship experience. So I'm relatively new to UUism. It's been the last 5 years or so. And one of the things I noticed is that UUs don't really dance a lot. Have you noticed? We don't even know, like, okay, should we clap or not? Get up and move? So this is contrary to the way that I grew up and what I'm most familiar with. You see, my theology is grounded in Christianity, and specifically, I grew up in the Black church where dancing was just simply a regular part of worship. There are even dance ministries. Yes, yes, dance ministries, they exist. And even spontaneous dancing in the aisles every Sunday when the Spirit moved us. And that was okay. It was all a part of the worship experience. Dancing, if only for a short time, and I don't know if you've ever given this any thought, it's kind of like laughter. You can't have a negative feeling or thought when you're laughing or dancing. Have you noticed? So when we dance, that laughter and that joy that just kind of comes up inside of us, it's a signal that we're maintaining our connections to what's really important, each other and the holy. Because my foundational sacred text happens to be the Bible, I was curious to find what it says about dancing. So I was surprised to see that depending on the translation, it only appears in the Bible about 11 times. And one of those verses that I think is instructive for us today is Jeremiah 31:13. And it goes like this. The young women will dance and be glad, young men and old as well. I will turn their mourning into gladness. I will give them comfort and joy instead of sorrow. All right. We're in a UU sanctuary, and I promise I'm not about to give a Bible lesson. I promise, I guarantee. But it is important to note a couple of things lingering in the background of this verse. You see, Jeremiah was a prophet during the fall of one empire and the start of another. He was imploring the people of Judah to change their ways and to come back into covenant with God during a period when nations were at war, governments were rife with political corruption, wealth was reserved for the most powerful, and everyone else in the social structure was either treated as a means to an end or entirely disposable. So I'm wondering if that sounds familiar. And yet, in this little quoted verse, Jeremiah, instead of speaking words of sorrow and lament, he offered a vision of joy, a vision of dancing that turns mourning into gladness. That verse is a verse that to me is just pregnant with the spirit of renewal, of transformation, and of hope. So that brings me back to where I started this morning. I promised to tell you about my recent experience with dancing that made me feel that kind of like you can fly, smiling ear to ear, dizzy from spinning with your arms wide open kind of joy. That time was during General Assembly this year. And my 16-year-old daughter decided that day before GA that she wanted to hang out with me in Baltimore. So after a day of attending sessions and walking that Baltimore Convention Center, I swear at least 10 times that day, we actually found the energy to attend a Black Lives UU party. And whew, I was glad I did. It was amazing. When we turned the corner in the convention center to the room where the party was happening, the room was full. People of all ages and abilities gathered in that safe, sacred, happy space to just simply celebrate. We gathered to celebrate the fact that we are still here, still doing the work of our calling, no matter how hard it gets. So typical of these types of functions, as part of a convention, there was always a speaking part of the program, so we got through that. And then the music started. So remember house party in your teenage years. The bass started thumping, right? It started thumping, and those heavy tones called us all at once to that single rhythm. All at once. People were moving in their wheelchairs, shimmying in their seats, and many of us, including my daughter, immediately rushed to the dance floor. We danced, some of us stumbled, some of us were offbeat, but that's okay. But no matter, because we were meeting God on that dance floor that night. Beloveds, in those few hours that night, we forgot that we were mourning the loss of loved ones. We forgot that we were mourning the loss of relationships and of dreams that have been deferred or lost to the realities of life. We forgot that we were grieving for lives taken by wars and genocides. We forgot we were mourning our fleeting sense of safety, because when we were dancing, we forgot that we were grieving for our country. That verse in Jeremiah tells us that although we may begin in a place of mourning and grief, and this is what I find so amazing about it, the divine will not allow us to stay there. Our hearts will be transformed, because when we take the time to dance, we will be moved by the love of the divine from grief into gladness, from sorrow into joy. We have to remember every now and then to just dance. Simple. Friends, my message to you this morning is not that we must deny or suppress our grief. I am not suggesting that we can just dance it away. The divine turning mourning to joy is not a denial of our pain. It is a loving transformation of it. We can hold grief and still choose life, still choose to dance. We can still choose joy. It's our task as UUs to make space for that kind of awesome joy in our congregations, in our justice work, and in our relationships. We can honor the sorrows of our world and hold firm to hope at the same time. Yes. Amen. Rejoicing, dancing in body and spirit brings about a renewal and a connection with the holy that we so desperately need now. Yes, baby. What would it mean? What would it mean for us to dance once more? To move through the world with courage and celebration and hope. To find joy despite the evil. That is the transformation we are looking to achieve, because our joy is our resistance. So go. You have my permission to dance wild whenever the mood strikes. Now, this is my favorite because it embarrasses my daughter. Go dance while you're in the grocery store, in the frozen food section. 70s, 80s, 90s music are my favorite. The Doobie Brothers, Michael Jackson, Prince, I'm on. Dance while you're pumping gas. Shimmy to music while you're driving in your car or walking down the street. It does not matter. Because when we do it, we dance to the holy rhythm. We dance to the beat of the divine that is in each of us. Amen and amen.